Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there to my actual left, as you cannot see on YouTube, unfortunately, is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing well today. We got some baseball to talk about, believe it or not.
Finally, it's finally happening, and we're able to talk about it for sure. We do have some baseball to talk about. Baseball news, not too much going on at this point in the year. There's still like April. It seems like everyone's 13 and 12 for the most part, except for a few exceptions. But teams will separate at points, but this is not a time of the year where that's happening, and some good teams are underperforming, bad teams are overperforming. You're going to get that. You're going to get that in April for sure. But a team, I guess you could say, should have been a worse team that's been really, really doing well so far this year is the Pittsburgh Pirates. And after a really interesting offseason with this particular player, they signed him for 8 years, $106 million. They signed Bryan Reynolds to an 8-year deal and bought off, I believe, 5 years of free agency.
Yes.
Signed him through his mid-30s around there. What did you think of this deal?
I thought that it was probably a bit of an underpay, but not like an egregious one. Like if he got about 125 mil in total, I would have been like, yeah, that's about market value for him.
Yeah.
Instead he got 106. I think it's crazy that they settled on this because they had agreed on these numbers weeks ago, but the only thing that was holding him up was that Reynolds wanted an opt-out after 2026, and the Cardinals were like, no, we don't want it that year. And then eventually they settled on, let's just not have it at all.
Yeah.
Which is, I admittedly, I was one of the people that was like, okay, well, he clearly doesn't want to stay in Pittsburgh, which he did request a trade, so it's reasonable to have come to that conclusion, but obviously he changed his mind, and I'm sure that this 20-game stretch to start the season has definitely played a large factor in that.
Yeah, right, for the team and for Reynolds. The team has gotten out to, an 18-8 start, which is, very, very good for them. I'm wondering if that maybe encouraged the Pirates to, invest a little bit more, even though they were trying to sort of get this deal done earlier in the year. I think it's a great. I don't think it can really be argued that this is a great deal for the Pirates. They're signing one of arguably their most valuable player in the franchise right now, to a deal through his age, I think 36 season, which is very good to have. I should see exactly what his service time is here. Yeah, he came in with 3 years.
He's at 3.163.
And this buys out this year, so it signs him through his age 35 season actually.
With a 2031 club option though.
Yeah, 2031 club option.
But I doubt that's taken.
But yeah, and when's the last time you saw this from the Pirates? It's not really a thing that's happened.
It's the first $100 million contract they've ever signed.
Right. So that's a good sign that they're trying to invest a little bit here. Do you think that maybe the success of this year's team so far maybe not was the main reason that they invested, but maybe part of it?
I don't think so. They were talking extension before spring training, or in spring training rather. Pirates fans were hoping that it would be announced on opening day. I think the reason Reynolds agreed to this is because of the good start. I think it really has more to do with him than it does the team.
Yeah.
I remember when we were at Fenway watching the Pirates, I was explaining, they actually have the dollar value in the years all figured out. The problem is the opt-out. And that was on April 4th when they won a game to improve to 2-2. So the Pirates, they were going to invest in him. They were going to at least try to invest in him, whether or not they started like 0-27 or 18-8.
Yeah.
But I think for Reynolds, certainly this played a large role. I mean, I have to assume if you're getting rid of the idea of an opt-out entirely, you're probably considering, okay, you know what, we have a good start. We have a lot of reinforcements still to come from the minors with guys like Andy Rodriguez, guys with like Quinn Priester, and several others. O'Neal Cruz will come back from injury. So yeah, I mean, I think for Reynolds for sure that played a large role.
Right. Yeah. There's they're a developing team, and he's not the only player in that organization under a longer term deal. Although it's mostly like a arbitration simulation.
Yeah.
They did sign Bryan Hayes to an 8-year deal, I believe last year, for $70 million. So Bryan Hayes will be around for most of the time that Reynolds will be around. So that's good. Two younger guys who have proven to be valuable at points in their career, sticking around. So yeah, I mean, it's a good sign if you're a young Pirates player like Cruz, like Andy Rodriguez, or even like Termarr Johnson, who I think is their top prospect, who's
yes,
his
Henry Davis too.
Yeah, like John. I know Johnson's ETA is like 2 years from now, but it's a good sign for them. Maybe coming up and being a little optimistic that they could stick around if they really want to.
And it's also possible they get Dylan Cruz too, which would be insane. I don't know. Like if you're listening to this and you don't know about Dylan Cruz, you need to look at Dylan Cruz because he's like there was speculation, and I don't think this is actually going to happen, but there was speculation that the Pirates are going to pass on him because they wouldn't want to pay his signing bonus. He's projected to have the highest signing bonus in MLB draft history at about like $20 million, because he's that insane. Let me just pull up his minor league numbers real quick at LSU.
Yeah, so they did. Do they have the number one pick this year?
Yes, they do.
They won that lottery.
Yeah, they won the lottery. Yeah, he is currently so he's played 40 games for LSU this season alone. He has 187 plate appearances, and he is slashing 485, 636, 841 for a 1477 OPS.
Yeah, yeah.
He has 11 home runs, 12 doubles, a triple. Only 19 strikeouts, by the way, and 45 walks.
Yeah, that's a solid ratio.
That's not too bad. Yeah, he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He also had a 1153 OPS last year in 300 plate appearances. Did not play summer ball last year. Unfortunately, did not play in either of the big two New England summer leagues. So
yeah,
we never got to see him in our areas.
Nor the Northwoods leagues.
No, he didn't play the Northwoods. He played in the Florida Collegiate Summer League.
Nice.
Yeah, so Dylan, you're gonna add Dylan Cruz to that too during the time when Reynolds is there. Hopefully, he's a guy that I really wouldn't be surprised if he's in the majors. Well, by like 2025.
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially a guy out of college. I know Adley Rutschman got drafted in 2019. He was there in 2022, and
he probably could have been there earlier if not for the pandemic.
Exactly.
The 2020 season was canceled.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I know that the Pirates, don't have the best track record with, rushing their guys up to the majors and getting them when, they're ready and, reinforcing to make the team better. But you know what? Maybe they'll change their ways when they are competitive and they also have money invested in this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good sign if you're a Pirates fan that it's literally their biggest contract of all time.
Andy Rodriguez is injured right now.
Oh,
that
no.
Sucks. How bad? Forearm injury. He said, looks like he got injured on an awkward slide attempt at second base when he was stealing. And he's on the IL with a forearm injury now. So.
Yeah, Andy Rodriguez, by the way, number 2 prospect.
That doesn't sound too bad, though.
Number 2 prospect in the Pirates system, and prior to this season was number 55 in all of baseball, had a 997 OPS in the minors last year, and plays a bunch of different positions, including catcher.
Yeah, he was also traded for Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, Yeah, so
The thing about the Pirates, it's very funny because they all as much as people love to, roast their front office and deservingly so, they are so good at trading.
yeah,
They are amazing at trading. Like they got Bryan Reynolds in the Andrew McCutchen trade. Like, how often do you trade a superstar and get a guy back that you end up extending? They did that. They traded Tony Watson and got O'Neal Cruz.
yeah,
That's insane. The Dodgers have done that twice, unbelievably.
right,
As
yeah,
good as they are, they've traded superstar players for random relievers twice.
yeah,
With Yordan Alvarez being the other, of course.
yeah,
They traded Dan Vogelbach to get Colin Holderman, who's been a really solid reliever for them this year, except they keep throwing him out there for some reason.
Yeah.
He's thrown like half their games so far this year.
mhm.
I'm worried about that. And then also they traded, Joe Musgrove and got Andy Rodriguez.
Right, yeah, it doesn't really make sense because usually there is. It's easy to make fun of the Pirates in their front office, but it's probably more ownership than
the same
actual
thing
wheeling and dealing.
The same thing exists for the Guardians. Like, they're also insane at trading.
Yeah.
Like the Corey Kluber, Emmanuel Clase trade.
Well,
The Lindor trade, also getting a guy that they extended.
Yeah, with the Guardians, the perfect example is they got Kluber for Jake Westbrook. He had an amazing career with Cleveland, and then they traded him to get Emmanuel Clase.
Yeah, like eventually they're gonna trade Emmanuel Clase for nothing and get like a 3-time Cy Young Award winner.
Right. Yes. Like Emmanuel Clase goes all the way back to Jake Westbrook.
Yeah.
Shout out to the 2007 ALCS Game 7. But the final point I was going to make with the Bryan Reynolds contract. So yeah, it buys off 5 years of free agency, simulates arbitration. So he's getting paid $7 million this year, 10.25 next year, 12.25 after, 14.25 in 2026, and then 15.25 the next 4 years after that. One comp I had with him and a guy sort of similar to him that recently hit the free agent market was Brandon Nimmo. The differences between them is probably health, which Reynolds has the advantage in, but just comparing the deals, Reynolds got $106 million, which obviously was going to be lower because this contract was buying off arbitration, which you're supposed to get paid less in anyway. But the years bought off in free agency, he's only getting like $15 million a year, whereas Nimmo was getting $20 million a year. Bryan Reynolds in his from 2021 to 2022 had a 8.8 B WAR along with a 136 OPS plus. Brandon Nimmo from 2021 to 2022 had 8.6 B WAR and an OPS plus of 130. So, you could argue that Bryan Reynolds was better prior to the contract he got with the Pirates than Nimmo was prior to the contract he got with the Mets. However, I think the real difference is Nimmo hit the free agent market, period, and also he hit the free agent market.
And also, Nimmo had Steve Cohen, whereas Bryan Reynolds had Bob Nutting.
Yeah, he had Steve Cohen, and he also hit the free agent market when the free agent market was at its most insane it's been in a really long time. Mm-hmm. Bryan Reynolds, this is an extension. They both sides wanted to get it done, and yeah. Difference in owners also.
Those posts on social media where it's like build your dream roster with $15, and it's like there's a $5 option all the way down to $1.
Yeah.
Brandon Nimmo had the $5 owner, and Bryan Reynolds had the $1 owner.
Yeah.
That's the difference here.
That's a lot of the difference. But yeah, when you are being extended by a team, it can be different than getting. It can be different than getting a deal on the open market where there's 4 or 5 teams going after you, and Steve Cohen's like, no, I want you, so I'm going to take you. So yeah, that's the gist of that. Sure, Reynolds probably could have gotten a little more, but I think he's happy to get this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Any more thoughts on the deal?
I mean, it's definitely, I always appreciate seeing teams that don't have a reputation of investing in their teams, especially when it's guys they should be investing in. Um, it's cool. Ooh, the Mariners just, sorry to cut this off, the Mariners just dropped their City Connects.
Nice.
And they are some hot fire.
I'm hoping.
They're very nice.
I just want a needle, really.
Admittedly, I had already seen them because they were leaked, like most of the City Connects. I don't know if there is a needle, but it's pretty good.
If there's no needle, I'm kind of out of here.
I think it looks cool. I'm trying to find like a good picture.
Yeah, it's kind of like their throwbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're definitely not exactly like them. I don't know. I think they're pretty good.
I like the color scheme.
The thing that I saw on the leaks is that they have "My Oh My" printed on them somewhere, like in small print.
Okay, that's good.
That's pretty awesome. That's of course a tribute to Dave Niehaus, who was their broadcaster from 1977 all the way up until 2010 when he passed. Yeah, he literally broadcasted the Mariners for as long as he possibly could have.
Yeah.
He was great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that would be good to have on the uniforms for sure. But
they definitely could have done a needle somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe like the L could have been a needle.
Yeah, right.
The L in Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been cool. I don't know. For didn't the Giants have something with the bridge?
I think so.
I might be wrong about that.
I don't know. I like the Mariners though. I think they're the best ones that have dropped this year for sure.
Probably. I mean, color scheme wise, it's great for sure.
Yeah. People hated the Rangers ones, like the general populace. I thought they were okay.
Right. Oh no, I don't think there is a bridge. Or no, this is. Yeah. No, never mind. I don't know.
The Giants are like insane in those uniforms. They have like a 700 winning percentage. So like fans that didn't like them at first are like, you know what? They can wear them as much as they want.
Right. Yeah.
If they're gonna play like this.
Yeah. Exactly.
So the Orioles, Reds, and Pirates are the last three teams that are getting City Connects this year.
Yeah.
I think the Pirates one would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm hoping
there's some cool things you could do with the bridges and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost certain they're probably doing like Roberto Clemente stuff, maybe like Steel City stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like maybe on the Gianta scale of grading City Connect uniforms. I like when it does connect to the city. It's in the name.
Yeah.
I like when there's a connection, not when it's just cool colors, I like when there's a bit of a connection. Even though the Red Sox design is a little weird, I do enjoy that they connected to something that's famous in the city.
I mean, that's most of what the Rangers was too, though.
Yeah, the Rangers did that for sure. And even if the White Sox didn't have any like design that connected to the city, they had South Side on the front of it. And it looks really cool. But yeah,
they should have done a Pilots jersey.
Yeah, true. R.I.P. But yeah, any last thoughts on the Pirates?
Yeah, I mean, my thought was just cool to see teams that don't particularly spending on the guys they should be. I mean, it's good that they are recognizing like, okay, you know what, we can give Reynolds money now that like is way less than what he'd see if he went to free agency.
That's it's a smart thing for a franchise to do, especially if they want to try and win. Which this is a winning move for sure. So the next subject to tackle, there's been a man donning the Arizona Diamondbacks uniform who's just been absolutely killing it, and had something like this happen last year. Zac Gallen at 29 consecutive scoreless innings, you said? What have you been seeing from Mr. Zac Gallen so far this year?
I mean, he's just been completely insane. First of all, his batted ball profile has changed quite a bit for the better. His ground ball rate is down, it is down, which isn't great. But his fly ball rate is also down. 5%. His pop-up rate is up about 1.5%. His line drive rate is up actually quite a bit, but it doesn't really matter because not many people are hitting the ball against him anyway. He has a 36.2% strikeout rate, which is up 10% from last year. And of course, I don't expect he's going to sustain a 36% strikeout rate. That's ridiculous, but I mean, if it's above 30,
Yeah.
that's his career high by an overwhelming margin. His walk rate is also cut in half from last year, as of right now. So just to give you an idea, his last 4 starts have been particularly nuts. He had some babippery misfortune in the first couple games for him this season, but since then, he had 6 1/3 shutout innings with 4 hits and no walks and 12 strikeouts against the Royals. Actually, that was his last start. I'm lying. I'm just gonna go in the reverse order now. So on Tuesday, he had 6 1/3 scoreless against the Royals, 4 hits, no walks, and 12 strikeouts. The start before that, on April 21st against the Padres, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 11 strikeouts. The game before that against Miami, against his old team.
Yeah, the old revenge game.
Yeah, 6 2/3, 2 hits, no walks, no runs, 7 strikeouts, and then the game before that, seven innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 11 strikeouts against the Brewers. It is one of 2 4-game spans in baseball history where a pitcher had 40 plus strikeouts, 1 or less walks, and no runs allowed. The other person to do it was Clayton Kershaw in July to August of 2015. I was actually at one of those starts.
Yeah.
He went 9 scoreless, complete game shutout against the Mets.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zac Gallen is doing something that only Clayton Kershaw has done throughout all of baseball history right now.
Yeah, that's wild. That's pretty crazy. And yeah, like the scoreless streak, continuous scoreless streaks from, last year and this year. It's pretty crazy to see. The strikeout rate being so high is also encouraging. It lets you know that, this isn't necessarily that the Diamondbacks are just playing great. It's not because the Diamondbacks defense is really like backing him up like crazy. He doesn't necessarily need that. He's striking out a lot of hitters and he's not walking anybody. I mean, that's like in the span, his strikeout minus walk rate is like probably 40% or something like that. Or maybe not that high, but like 35% ish. It's pretty wild. So yeah, what he's been doing on the mound is something we've only seen Clayton Kershaw do, and I'm sure he could continue and maybe be in an exclusive club with those numbers for sure.
Yep.
I couldn't find much StatCast stuff on him. It's just, I think it's just a combination of a lot of different things. Getting swings and misses, hitting the right spots, obviously having a lot of control to avoid walks. Yeah, every pitch seems to be working for him.
Apparently, the June Lee just said the Mariners City Connects were actually a tribute to the Pilots and the Rainiers. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
They did it. They did the thing. Dude,
Yeah.
shout out to the 1969 Seattle Pilots for real. Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing they could have done was put the needle like on like the letter L or something like that, or even just like on like the bottom of the uniform going up. But regardless,
Yeah,
they are very good. The color scheme is great. The PNW patch is cool. The My Oh My patch is great.
Yeah, if I were a Mariners fan, I might buy that jersey.
Yeah.
Although it costs $7 billion.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If I can get an Edgar one, I might consider.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how hard Griffey ones would go?
Oh my God, yeah.
Those would sell out in 3 minutes.
Yes.
If you can get a Griffey, City Connect, you know what they got to do? They got to have him throw out the first pitch at like the first game where they wear them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is next week.
Yeah, him or
a Griffey City Connect jersey would go crazy.
him or like Andy Bennis.
Yeah, Andy Bennis, the guy who started Game 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably like Mike Blowers, Luis Soho.
Yeah, Joey Cora.
Yeah.
All those great guys. Anything more before we get into players to highlight?
No. I think we're ready.
All right. So now we will get into the part we've most prepared for, where we're talking, players or subjects that have been catching our eye for good or bad reasons. We'll start with the good reasons with our Friday, April 28th, 2023 edition of. How about that? Who do you have for us today?
I have a player that will be wearing those City Connect uniforms this next week and will probably look great doing it. I'm talking about J.P. Crawford. Over his last 14 games, he is slashing 333, 489, 528 for a 1017 OPS and a 197 weighted runs created plus. During that span, he is leading the major leagues with a 23.4% walk rate. J.P. Crawford now comes with walks. And he does it more than anyone else in the majors over this 14-game span. He's never had an average exit velocity above 88.2 miles per hour, and that was only in 82 batted balls in, I think, 2018. But this year, he is at 92.1%. That is a 7-mile-per-hour increase since 2022. That is insane, and it is also the number one largest jump in the 182 qualifiers throughout the majors. Very unsurprising. His ground ball rate has gone from 46.5% to 40.7% throughout between 2022 and 23, and his fly ball rate has gone from 18.2% to 25.9%. If you told me that J.P. Crawford would be increasing his fly ball percent by nearly 8% between 2022 to 2023 before this season, I would say, well, that's not good. He's not a guy that hits the ball hard enough to be doing that. Well, now he is that guy, and it's paying off for him big time. He hit a big grand slam the other day against the Phillies. His outs above average has also gone from the 2nd percentile to the 80th percentile, so his defense is also improving along with his batted ball profile. Lastly, in 23 plate appearances with runners in scoring position, he is slashing 333, 545, 600 for an 1145 OPS and 229 weighted runs created plus. He has a 30.4% walk rate with runners in scoring position and a 4.3% strikeout rate. That is a walk-to-strikeout ratio of 7. It ranks 2nd in the league only to Jose Ramirez, and his 30.4% walk rate ranks 2nd only to Alex Bregman. J.P. Crawford, we are really seeing it from him. You know, he's had flashes before, but never like this, where he's hitting the ball so extremely well, and it's very, very cool to see.
Yeah. J.P. Crawford. How about that? Yeah. I feel like he has one of these like every year. I feel like we've highlighted him a lot, but this time, I mean, yeah, a 7 mile per hour.
It feels more like it could be. I don't want to say sustainable because, like, you know, 92 miles per hour is a lot to sustain over the year. That's like almost leading the league type stuff. But if he can stay above 90 or 89, that's great. That's insane. He was at 85 last year. If he finishes the year at 89, that's more than reasonable, and it's incredible.
Yeah, an above average exit velocity, below average ground ball, a below average in a good way ground ball rate, and a great walk rate. That's going to set up for offensive success, along with, if you're 80th percentile outs above average as a shortstop, that's extremely, extremely valuable. So yeah, good for Crawford. It's interesting that like he's done really well. Kelnick's done really well, but the Mariners still are just Oh, one bit of news we forgot to talk about was regarding the Mariners. Maybe we could get to it after players to highlight, but I literally just remembered this. Robbie Ray is out for the season.
He is.
I forgot about that.
It feels like he's been like a non-factor for much of his tenure there anyway.
Yeah, true.
Because I mean, like, I know their rotation will survive without him.
Yeah. We could briefly get into it after the players highlight, but my how about that? I think we mentioned this guy like when we talked about like our selection process of how about that, and it's like, well, we couldn't do this guy in 2019, but now we could maybe do it. Mm-hmm. And that's Cody Bellinger.
Yep.
Who like yeah, I know he's a high-profile name, but this is a guy who, like, in the last 3 years, I think has like a 74 OPS plus, or at least before this year had like a 75 OPS plus in his previous 3 years. But he's been really swinging the bat well for the Cubs so far. You and I both were not on the Cody Bellinger train to previewing the year, but he's looking really good so far. There are still some things he could improve upon, but maybe the biggest problem that he had is being solved right now. So with Cody Bellinger in his last 11 games, he's hitting 390 with a 1250 OPS. He's actually currently on the paternity list, so maybe he will come back and continue.
Oh yeah, that's also a thing. The Dodgers paternity list issue.
Yeah,
it's been going on.
That's been a thing. He's on the paternity list, so maybe he'll come back with dad strength to do even better. But in his last 11 games, hitting 390 with a 1250 OPS. Out of 187 qualifiers in the span, Bellinger's average ranks second, on-base percentage ranks sixth, slugging ranks third, OPS ranks third, and weighted runs created plus ranks third. Overall, he is hitting 300 with a 930 OPS, and his most notable change has been with strikeouts. From 2022 to 2023, his strikeout rate has gone from 27% to 14%. His whiff rate has gone from 27.2% to 20.5%, and his chase rate has gone from 31.7% to 26.5%. And even when Cody Bellinger does chase, he has a 75.5% chase contact rate. That's pretty wild. Cody Bellinger, out of 284 hitters to swing at 25 plus pitches out of the zone this year, Bellinger's chase contact rate is 13th highest, 13th out of 284. That's like top 5% in a chase contact percentage. Which, if you told me Bellinger was going to be doing that, I don't think I'd believe you at all, because he's been kind of a swing and miss guy over the past few years. But he's turning it around right now, and so far Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, this is definitely the first year in the ARR era where Cody Bellinger has been eligible for How About That?
Yes, that's that's very true. That's very true. Because our first year he was a defending MVP, and then
he was in the middle of an MVP season basically, because we started in October. Of 2019.
Well, we didn't have How
we
About
didn't
That.
have How About That. So you're right.
First year of How About That. Yeah, he.
Yeah, I mean, quite literally the equivalent now would be, oh, dude, I'm talking about Paul Goldschmidt.
Yes. Yeah, look out for Paul Goldschmidt. He's gotten above 880 OPS.
I believe that is one team knocked off the list. Correct? We didn't have a Cub before.
Yeah, we've not done a Cubs.
We had done a Mariner.
Yeah. Had we? Yeah.
We've done
Kelnick.
We've done an Oriole, a Red Sox, a Cub, a Royal. We didn't do a Royal. An Angel, a Dodger, a Brewer, a Pirate, Mariner twice, Rays, Rangers, Blue Jays.
Nice. All right, so now we go from the highs to the lows, where we're talking players and subjects that have been underperforming for our Friday, April 28th, 2023 edition of
Slightly Alarming.
Who do you have for us today?
I have a young pitcher that broke out last year, someone that I think a lot of people were expecting even another step up from this year, but we really just have not seen it in any way, shape, or form, and that is Brady Singer. With 27 innings pitched this year, he currently has a 6.67 ERA and a 4.65 FIP. His K to walk numbers are relatively similar to last year. His walk rate is actually down a little bit. His K rate's down a tick, but it's not uncommon for people in April to have low strikeout rates. So the problem is in his batted ball numbers pretty clearly. He currently ranks in the first percentile of average exit velocity at 94.8 miles per hour. That's basically people are averaging a hard hit ball off of him.
Yeah.
And a hard hit rate of 61.6%.
Yeah.
That's pretty horrendous. His 20.7% increase in hard hit rate from last year is the largest jump among the 243 qualifiers. And the reason why he's gotten such bad luck on his contact is because of location. His sinker is his most primarily used pitch, and 21.4% of his sinkers have been in game day zones 5 or 6. Game day zone 5 is right down the middle. Game day zone 6 is middle out to right-handed hitters. And you don't want to be throwing there, and that's what Brady Singer, unfortunately, is doing. That is the 5th highest rate among the 50 pitchers to have thrown at least 100 sinkers this year. Another 30% of his sinkers have been in game day zones 12 and 14, which is just outside. High or low, it's outside to right-handed hitters, inside to left-handed hitters. And that is the 2nd highest rate on that same list. So he's either throwing it in very easy places to hit it, or it's outside. And that's been about half of his sinkers so far. As for his slider, his second most used pitched, 9.1% of them have been in game day zone 5, and that is the 8th highest rate among the 58 pitchers to throw at least 100 sliders. So he's not locating well, and as a result, he's getting absolutely crushed. But other than that, he's been fine, but that's something that clearly needs to be worked on.
Yeah, Brady Singer.
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, it's despite FIP, even if you're striking out and walking guys at a decent rate, you can be doing poorly if you're allowing an average contact is a hard hit ball. Not the best, not the greatest. 61.6% hard hit rate against is pretty wild. So yeah, that's a pretty good analysis there. My slightly alarming is a hitter. A former MVP technically. It's Jose Abreu. In his last,
I love that you put technically in there.
yeah.
Because it's like, well, for one, it was in a 60-game season, and 2, he shouldn't have won it.
Probably not. Jose Abreu, in his last 20 games, he is hitting .205 with a .465 OPS. Out of 180 qualifiers in the span, his on-base percentage is 4th worst, slugging is 10th worst, OPS is 6th worst, and weighted runs created plus is 4th worst out of 180. Also, Jose Abreu, in his last 20 games, has not hit a home run and only has 3 extra base hits. So his ISO is 5th worst out of 180. In the span, his average exit velocity is 86.3 miles per hour, which is 5.9 miles per hour less than his average exit velocity for all of last year. So, if you're wondering why he's not hitting as many extra base hits, probably because he's not hitting the ball as hard as he was last year by a lot. And he has and also a reason is why he might not be getting extra base hits is because he's hitting the ball on the ground a decent amount. He has a 50.8% ground ball rate in this span, which is 18th highest out of the 113 hitters with 50-plus batted balls in this span. Along with that, Abreu has a 26% strikeout rate and only a 2% walk rate in the span, and his walk-to-strikeout ratio is 5th lowest out of 180 in the span. A lot of that can be attributed to his very high chase rate in this 20-game sample. He has a 37.5% chase rate in this span, and out of 117 hitters to see 150-plus pitches out of the zone in this span, Abreu's chase rate is 9th highest. So a lot of things going wrong for Jose Abreu, who recently signed a 3-year deal with the Astros. He is hitting the ball much softer. He is hitting the ball on the ground more, and he is chasing the ball out of the zone a lot more, and therefore striking out more and walking a lot less. So nothing's really going right for Jose Abreu right now, and I'm sure he'll turn it around. But right now, Jose Abreu looking
Slightly alarming.
So yeah, that's what we got for players to highlight. Do we want to So yeah, one bit of news we forgot to get to. I just thought of it just now. Robbie Ray, he has to get a season-ending surgery. The Mariners, they'll be in a good spot, but not the best for a guy, they signed a 5-year contract too.
Yeah, it's certainly not ideal. Luckily, their rotation is good enough to survive without him. He looks like he made one outing this year and struggled quite a bit. Walked a lot of guys, wasn't finding the zone. And he's, at this point kind of past the point in his career where walks have been a major issue. So, yeah, I think, based on those numbers alone, it's not surprising that there were some underlying issues there with his arm. But, hoping for a speedy recovery and that he gets back quickly because, they signed him as a reigning Cy Young Award winner, and maybe he'll never repeat his 2021 again, but I still believe he can be a very good pitcher for that team.
Yeah.
Especially in that ballpark. So, yeah.
Yeah, even in a down year last year, well, down compared to a Cy Young year.
Yeah.
He had over 10 strikeouts per 9. He had even still like average walk numbers, which is really good for him particularly. But yeah, definitely not great. But as you mentioned, there's like maybe 4 teams where this could happen, and it doesn't really make too much of a dent in the franchise's plans. But the Mariners are one of them. Like, they have a lot of they're with the acquisition of Ray and the emergences of Kirby and Gilbert and the acquisition of Castillo. There were some good quality, just regular major league pitchers who kind of got kicked out of the rotation, and are now, because of injuries, are able to get back in it. Chris Flexen is kind of the most notable guy of that. He was a quality starting pitcher in 2021, but I think just the overall depth pushed him back in the rotation. The overall depth that was added pushed him back on the rotation. He'll probably be a bigger factor. Marco Gonzalez will be a bigger factor. And then obviously Castillo, Gilbert, and Kirby are going to keep doing their thing. Castillo has looked phenomenal this year. One of the best pitchers in baseball so far this year. So great for the Mariners to have him. They don't have to worry about signing him to an extension because they did that last September, I think. So, I guess this is a props to Jerry Dipoto for just putting his team in a situation where you can lose a 2021 Cy Young winner and your organization is in a all right spot.
Yeah.
And in fact, their rotation is in a very good spot still. They went from, maybe like a 9 out of 10 rotation to an 8.5 out of 10 rotation, but it's still an extremely good rotation.
Yeah.
So it sucks for Robbie Ray.
That's why it's big that they that they got Castillo at the deadline. They obviously traded a lot to get him, but that's why you do that.
Yeah, and I guess you could say they already kind of they didn't get maybe what they were expecting out of Ray, so maybe that's why they got Castillo. So it bolstered their depth.
Yeah, and Ray still had a 3.71 ERA last year. Like, he wasn't terrible.
No, yeah, he was. He was all right.
Yeah, he did give up a lot of home runs though.
Yeah, he did give up a decent amount of home runs and not the highest of offensive environments. But yeah, he's valuable to have for sure. Excuse me. All right, so that leads into preview of the weekend ahead. I will be looking at some series to watch. Daniel will be looking at the day-by-day matchups. And as I mentioned before, everyone's sort of 13-12 right now. Even if you aren't, you sort of are at that point. But, that makes for some interesting series. First one I'll talk about is a rematch of the wild card or one of the wild card series last year. Blue Jays Mariners at Rogers Center. It's a game 1 of that series rematch tonight between Manoah and Castillo, and that'll be a good series to watch. Mariners been kind of underperforming so far this year, but I think have had somewhat recent success, but I'm not sure.